Our agenda is to understand few questions and we'll understand a few concepts behind it and try to solve them. Okay, so this is some SQL webinar where we are trying to practice some SQL questions. So here is our first question. So there is some list of projects and employees which are mapped to particular object, or you could say project which is present, right? So there is a table called projects. There is something called EMP projects, which is employee related projects. So if I execute them and show you, right? So in the projects table we have three columns. So one is ID column, title and budget column, right? And in the second table, which is EMP projects, we have some employee ID, and we have the project respective project IDs which are assigned to those particular employees. So I hope you are able to understand. We have a projects table and EMP projects table where the respective employees are assigned with some projects. So what do we need to do? We need to calculate by the amount of project budget allocated to each employee. This is our target. So there are two tables. We need to calculate the project budget allocated to each employee. The output should include the project title as well and the project budget as well, which is rounded to particular decimal values, right? Which is rounded to the closest integer. So we must order our list of projects within the highest budget per employee first. Okay, so do anyone like to try this? This is simple query, right? We need to get that particular amount of project per employee and we need to round it off and sort it. Manoj, would you like to try? Sindhu? So you have these two tables in front. All you need to do is make a right kind of join and then you have to calculate that and apply it. So any kind of thoughts? Anyone? Rajesh, Mithilesh, Jatin? Do anyone like to try this question? What would be your approach? What we need is we have these two tables. In first table we have ID, title and budget. In the second table we have employee ID and project ID. What we want is for each employee, what is the total project budget? We have to round it off to the closest integer and sort it based upon the budget. You have two tables, their names and respective columns. Would anyone like to try?
We have to join on ID.
Okay, join on ID. That is good. And what else do we need to do?
Project.
Okay, so
Order by we have
what?
to do.
Of course, order by group by also we need to do. So what I'll do is I need certain columns. What are the columns that I want? From this project table, I want title column. So what I'll do, I'll just keep alias's name as P. I want title column. I'll write P dot title. I'll give some name as project underscore title. Right. What is the second column that I want? I want to calculate budget based upon the number of employees. I want budget per employee, right? That is what they have asked. Highest based upon highest budget per employee, we have to sort it, and we have to calculate based upon budget per employee. So to calculate that, what we need to do, I'll take that project table budget column, right? I'll divide it with something called count of this particular employee projects table employee IDs I want, right? I'll take employee table, employee ID. So if at all, if at all this particular thing we have to round it off to 0, what do we need to use? A simple round function would work, right? I can use this round function and I can just, round it off to the closest integer means 0th decimal. So for this column, what I can name it as budget per employee. So now I have calculated what the respective columns which I want. Now I have to write the table, from which table I'm trying to get ms underscore projects. So that is the first table, right? So this is my first table. I'll name it as P because I have used it as P. I have to join, inner join, because I want only matching rows. With what is the right table? MSEMP projects, which is our right table where we have employee IDs and project IDs. I'll name it as E because that is what I'm counting, right? So on what basis? MS project on what basis? P dot ID column, it is equal to E dot ID, right? Here, what is this ID? Either it is like, what is the respective ID? Here ID means it is the project ID of this column. So I'll take E dot project ID, right? So project table ID column is nothing but employee table project ID column. So P dot ID is equal to E dot project ID. Now, since we have used that aggregation function, what do we need to do? We need to group by, right? What do we need to group by? Based upon P dot ID, comma, P dot title, comma, P dot budget. Why? Because we are trying to calculate, right? So you can take it, although you don't want to mention it over there, but you can keep it in here. So what I need to do? I need to order by. Order by, you can take this budget per employee. We have to sort it based upon this highest to lowest, right? So to sort it from highest to lowest, what we can use? Descending order, right? So now our query is complete. And then if we execute, so if you see this, right, these are the project titles which is sorted in highest to lowest order by rounding it off based upon the budget per employee calculation, right? So is it understandable, everyone?
Yes.
Yes. Others? Is everyone able to follow? Let's move ahead with the next question. So there is a table called as Airbnb, apartments and Airbnb hosts. So let us understand these tables. Okay, so in the first table, we have some host ID, apartment type, number of beds and bedrooms, and country and city. Okay, so this is some data which we have for apartments related table. So for host related table, we have a host ID, their respective nationality, gender, and age. Okay, so I hope these are simple, data which you have. These are two different tables. This is the apartments table, and this is your age. You could say a host related table where you have the respective age, gender, and nationality. So what is the requirement? Find the total number of available beds per host nationality. So based upon the nationality, we have to count the total number of beds available, right? So how can we do that? We'll try to understand. Now you see this, output the nationality along with the corresponding total number of beds available. Sort the records by the total available beds in descending order. So here we have number of beds and number of bedrooms, right? So what do we need to do? We need to do a simple calculation based upon the requirement, right? Do anyone would do anyone like to try this? Just like the previous question, a simple question to solve it. All you need to do is use an aggregation function, join two tables, group by on the nationality, and sort it. Do anyone like to try this? Anyone in the group? Okay, if no one is able to respond, I'll try to tell. Right now, what do we not? What do we want? We want nationality, right? So what is our table? Our table, we will be taking this apartment table because that is where we have all the relevant information to calculate, right? So from this particular table, which is apartments table, right? Now what do we want? I'll just name this table as something called A. Okay. From this A table, what do we want? I want no right. In this, I don't want anything, right? I want nationality table. Let us call this A. I'll try to join other table. What is the other table? Airbnb dot underscore hosts, right? So I'll call this table as H table, right? So on what basis can we join? A dot host ID is equal to H dot host ID, right? Based upon the host ID, we can calculate. Now from H table, we want nationality, right? Because in this particular host table, we have nationalities. I can take H dot nationality, comma, I want to calculate total number of beds. What is the total number of beds? You have the total number of beds here, right? So n underscore beds. So sum of A dot n underscore beds you have. So what can I call this? Total underscore available underscore beds. Okay. So now this is simple, right? Since we have used aggregation function, what do we need to use? Group by. Group by on what? H dot nationality, right? And since we have to sort it on descending order, what do we need to do? Use order by. Order by total available beds in descending order, right? Now if I execute, you see what happens? Based upon the nationality, we have the total available beds according, right? Is this difficult? Is everyone able to understand?
Yes.
Yes. So all this might seem to be simple questions, but you need to understand what they are asking, right? So there is some ABC organization related, like, of course, all these questions are asked in top companies, but again, you have to understand what they're asking. So there is an organization which is working on a feature to analyze some purchasing behavior for all Fridays in the first quarter of the year. What is the first quarter of the year? January, February, and March. So for each Friday separately, we need to calculate the average amount of users who have spent per order. So we have to calculate the average amount spent per order. Okay. So what is the output? It should be contain. It should be contain the week number of that particular Friday and also what is the total amount spent. Okay, let me show you the table, then you'll understand. So here we have some user ID, we have date and amount spent and respective day name. So we have these 4 columns. What do we want? What do we want? For each Friday separately, we need to calculate the average amount spent per order. And also we need to make sure that output must consist of week number as well as the average amount spent. Okay, so what could be your approach? Anyone? So how should I approach this question? First thing, what do I need to do? I need to identify all the Fridays which are present in the first quarter of the year, right? And then I have to calculate the week number. So based upon that week number, I have to calculate the average amount spent per order, right? Am I right, everyone?
Yes.
Is it understandable? Yes. Now let us try to understand, write the query related to it. So what I want user ID. I'll write user underscore ID. I want date column. I want amount underscore spent column. Okay. So to find out week, what I can do? I can use a function called date part. So date part is a date function which will help us to find out the week as well. So I can write week, comma, in which column? Date column, right? The column name is date. I'll call it as something called week underscore number. Okay, so apart from that, what other column do I have? What other column do I have? Day name column I have. So I have these 4 columns. Apart from that, I have day name column. So all these columns are present in which table? User underscore purchases. So now what did I do? I'm trying to execute this thing, right? So if you see, apart from additional 4 columns, I brought this week number column additionally, right? So this week number helps us to identify the respective week numbers, and then it will help us to solve accordingly to find out the average. Okay, so there is one more condition which is left. I have to find out the respective Fridays only, right? So to apply that, what I can do, I can use a where condition where my day name is equal to Friday, right? What I'm trying to do, I am applying a where condition where my day name, it is equal to Friday. And what is another condition? I have to calculate for all the Fridays in the first quarter of the year. How do we apply the condition for first quarter? I can use and condition in my where clause, and I can use the date part function. In this date part function, what I can do, I can write month comma date where my month lies in first quarter. What are the first quarter months? I can use in operator. First quarter months are 1 comma 2 comma 3, right? January, February, and March. So our two conditions are satisfied. Day name is equal to Friday, as well as date part, which is our months. It is in the first quarter, which is 1, 2, and 3 months. So here, if I try to execute, you'll see the output. What is the output? So all these are week numbers, all these are Fridays, and this is the average amount spent. Okay, if you see here, second week number and fifth week number, they are repeating, right? And what we need to do, we need to find out the average value of it. Okay, rounding to the 2 decimal values or whatever it is possible. So what I'll do, I'll try to take this particular query as my CTE. I'll write something called with CTE as, right? I'll make it as a CTE. I can write select statement. I'll write select. What do you want? I want a week underscore number, comma. I want average value, right? I'll find out average of amount spent. If I want to round it off to 2 decimals, suppose that here it is a whole number, but again, if I want to round it off, I can use this round function and I can round it off to 2 decimals. I can name it as something called average underscore amount underscore spent, right? Now, since I have used that aggregation function, what do I need to write? Group by, right? So what is the table that I am taking from? CTE, right? And what is the group by on which I have to group by? Week underscore number. Based upon week number, I want to find out the average amount spent. Now, in order to sort it, what do I need to use? Order by week underscore number. So what did I do? I tried to bring all the columns. Additionally, what I brought? Week number column. I have applied the where condition where my day name is Friday and month lies in the first quarter of the year. So in the select statement, I brought that week number and tried to calculate the average and did the group by based upon the week number, right? Now if I try to calculate this, you see what is the output? So we have this week number and this is the average amount spent, right? So we have these 4 week numbers, 4 different Fridays between those, and this is the average amount spent by the customers based upon the requirement. Is this understandable, everyone? Anyone who is not clear with this query? Is everyone able to understand?
It's like we need to
Okay.
know functions and CT.
Yes. Little like few things you have to gradually learn and understand. So I'll just mention another method through which you'll be able to solve this kind of query. Right. For example, what I'll do, I'll bring all columns from user underscore purchaser table. Right. So I'll bring all columns from user underscore purchases. I'll apply a simple condition where my day name is equal to Friday. Day underscore name is equal to Friday. Right. Now let me make it a city. Right. A simple query, right? So I'll write with city as, and this one I'll write a select statement. We have to bring the week number. I'll use the date part function again. Week comma date. Week comma date. I'll call it as week number. Right. And now we can calculate the average value of amount spent, right, as average amount spent. From which table? CT. Right. Group by date. Now try to run this query and then we'll see the output. You see, we are able to get the same output. Here, what did we do? We applied the Friday filter, right? We are trying to do like calculate the week number and trying to calculate the average. You can ask me, it is for the first quarter only, right? So fortunately, we have the data relevant to only that. So it is fine because we are trying to group by date as well. So we are able to get the right output even with respect to this query. So it is always better to follow this kind of method. Of course, you are using it so to apply better filter, in appropriate way, right? You can shorten your queries, but you have to understand what is the impact of it. Okay, so I hope it is understandable. Please let me know if you have any sort of doubts on that. So we'll move on to the other question. So here we have a table which has some product launches by company in a particular year. Okay. So if you see based upon the year, so if you see this table, you have three columns, right? What is the column? Year. We have the year column, company name column, and product name column. We have three different columns. So what is our question? Write a query to count the net difference between the number of products companies launched in 2020 along with the number of products companies launched in the previous year and find out the net difference of net products released for 2020 compared to the previous year. What does it mean? It means that we have to compare the 2020 year with the previous year, which is 2019. Okay, find out the count of the net difference, right? Or you could say find out the difference between those and how it has grown. Would anyone like to try this? Rajesh, Mithilesh.
You need to find difference from 2000, previous, current versus previous. Use.
So the current versus previous net difference we have to calculate. So how do we write the query?
Okay. We can use those lag function here.
Of course, of course. So can you tell me based upon simple count function? Of course, lag function also I'll show you, but others might not be familiar with window function. We can use lag as well, of course.
We can use like sum of 2019, 20.
Okay.
And minus sum of 2019.
Okay. So to do that directly, you might, of course, your approach is correct. For that, you have to use something called case when. Okay, I'll show you something. Okay, for example, I'll write select company underscore name. Okay, this is what we want in the first column. Next thing, what we want, all the 2020 sales, right? So I'll write I'll write case when statement. I can write case when when my year is equal to 2020, then I want 1, else I want 0. And since I have used case, I have to end it, right? So I'll write end. So what is the thing that I'm doing? Whenever my year is 2020, then I'm trying to take it as 1. When it is not, it will take 0. And all the ones, whatever we get, it will try to sum it up. Or you can write count also. I'll show you by count also. So this is how you are going to end it, right? I'll call it as something called products underscore 2020, right? I'll put a comma. Now similarly, what do we need to write? The total value for 2019. I'll write case 1, year is equal to 2019, then 1, else 0, and end. What is the column name? Products underscore 2019. Okay, so these are two columns which we have got 2020 and 2019. From which table? For underscore launches. Okay, so the condition is here we have, we have only two things, right? Even if you have other particular products, you need to exclude them. So what I can do, I can apply a where condition where year is in either 2019 or 2020. So since we have used aggregation functions, we have to use group by. What is group by? Group by company name. So when we apply this, what do we get? We have this particular products in 2020 as well as products in 2019. So to find out the net difference, what do we need to do? We need to subtract it, right? We can directly also subtract, but a good way to write it is by using CT. I can write with CT as, or rather than writing CT, you can mention something like product counts as, you can give some name, right? So I'll close the parenthesis. I'll write select statement, select company underscore name, comma. Our net difference we want, right? So I'll write, what do we need to subtract? Products 2020 underscore 2020 minus products 2019 underscore, right? Product underscore 2019. So what is this called as? Net difference. From which table? Product underscore counts table, which is our CT. What do we need to order by? Order by net difference. In which order? Descending order. So when we try to execute this, you try to see what is the difference. So you see, this would be the net difference, right? So it would be positive, negative, of course, because the number of units might change, right? But this is how we will be, executing such requirement. Okay, is everyone able to understand this?
Yeah.
Yes. What did I do? I used case when statement, used the sum function, and tried to calculate the total number of products in 2020 and 2019. Made it a CTE based upon applying group by, and in select statement I have subtracted it and brought the net difference. So another method how you can write is, other method I'll show you. The same conditions and all these things you can directly write as a query. How? Select company underscore name. So you can directly count it. I'll write count case when year is equal to 2020, then I will call it as 1, else 0, or instead of 0 you can tell else null and end it. Okay, I'll write minus. What do we need to minus? Count of case when year is equal to 2019, then 1, else null and end it. What are we trying to do? We are trying to count that particular products in 2020, subtract the 2019 products totally. So what can we call this difference as? Net underscore difference. Right? So that is the column name which I mentioned. From which table? Car underscore launches. Group by what? Group by company underscore name. Is anything left here? we need to order by. What is the order by? Net underscore difference in descending order. You see, in 4 lines, we are able to write that, solve that query. Right? You see, we are able to get the same output. What did we do? Instead of making CT, we just directly subtracted it and written as a net difference. It will still work fine and correctly. Okay. So someone told that we can use it by lag function, right? Would you like to try using lag? The same question. Anyone? Rajesh, Mithilesh, would you try? Would you like to try this question with lag function? Okay, let me help you solve. So we'll write select. We'll take the year. Okay, and what do we want? Company name, right? And here, what we can do? First of all, we want to count that particular number of products, right? So what I'll do? I'll write count of product underscore name. From this total count, what I have to subtract, or you could say from the normal count, what I have to subtract, I can use something called lag function and take this particular count of product name, count of product name, right? By default, what does it start with? 1, right? If at all I want to avoid null value and give some default value, I can take it as 0, right? So this acts for default value. What I'm trying to bring the lag value, which is my count of product name. What I'm trying to subtract it from? Count of products. Now, in over clause, what do we need to write? We need to partition by company name, right? Partition by company underscore name, order by year, because we need to sort it based upon the year, right? So once we write this lag function and subtract this total number of count from, with the lag, we can name this particular, column as difference of products. Difference of products. Now, from which table are we trying to do this? From car launches table. Group by 2 columns. What are those 2 columns? Year and company underscore name. Right. When we execute this, you try to understand this output. What is the output? 2019 respective company name and the difference of products. 2019 another brand and another difference, right? So from this, what do we want? We want to bring that particular year which is 2020 only, right? That is the output that we want. So how can I do that? Either I can make a subquery or I can make it as a CTE. Right. So suppose if I want to make it as a subquery, what I can do? I can write select. I want company name, comma, difference of products. Right. These 2 columns I want. From which table? This particular query. Right. So from this particular query, I want these 2 particular columns. So again, there is a where condition. What is the where condition? Year must be is equal to 2020. And one last thing is left. What is that? Order by. Order by difference of products in descending order. Now let us try to execute this. You see, we'll be able to get, okay, where condition is wrong. So now since it is a derived table, you need to name this particular table. Can we name it as some I can call it as some source table. You can give any name. I'm making it as a source table. Now if I execute, you see what is happening? we are able to get the same output. Right? What did we do? We are trying to count the number of products and trying to subtract the lag value, partitioning by the based upon the company name and ordering by year. Right? From that, what are we trying to do? Filter the year, which is 2020, and sorting it based upon the difference of products. Is it understandable, everyone? Do anyone have any sort of doubt in this? Mithilesh, Rajesh, Manoj.
2020, right? That.
Because in each row we have taken that particular total based upon year and company we have sorted, right? Based upon year
Okay.
and sort, that thing we have sorted. Difference we have taken in a different column. So based upon that we have to find it for the recent column, recent year, right? Only then we'll
Mm.
be able to get it appropriately.
Okay.
Am I right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, if you are able to understand, then we'll try to move ahead with next question. So there are some two tables where we have, this nominee information and some Oscar, Oscar nominees details. For example, if you see this, this is some nominee information. There are some nominees, person IDs, what is their genre in which they have worked upon, and what is their birthday and ID. These are some years, and these are some categories, their respective nominee details, the movie and the winner and the ID, some ID details. So we have these respective columns. What do we need to find out? We need to find out the genre of the person with most of the Oscar winnings. So we need to find out the, like within the respective data, we have to find out the genre of the person with most of the Oscar winnings. If there are more than one person with same number of Oscar wins, written the first one in the alphabetical order based upon their name. Okay, so if there are more than one person who has same number of Oscar wins, we need to return the first one in the alphabetical order. Use the names as keys when joining the tables. Okay, we need to use the names as keys for joining the tables. Because if you see this, there is no appropriate key using which we can join, right? So what can we do? We can use the join based upon the names only, right? So what can we do? Let me try to make you understand. We need to find out the genre only, not anything. The like for the person who has most Oscar winnings. Okay, so first approach must be to count the total wins based upon the nominee. You have to find out which nominee, like what for each nominee, how many total wins they have, gained, right? So how do you find it out? I'll write select. Let us suppose that this Oscar nominees table, which we have that winner information we have, right? Where winner equal to one means they have, they are the winners or total wins. So I'll write select this Oscar nominees. I'll take it as table O. I'll write nominee column, which is nominee only, right? And I want to count it. How do I count it? I can write simply count star. I can call it as something called total underscore wins column. Right. From which table? From Oscar underscore nominees. I'll take it as O. Right. So since we have applied this count, what do we need to do? Group by. Group by O dot nominee. One thing, what are we missing? Where condition. Where my O dot winner column is equal to 1. Why? Because if you see this table, not all wins, right? So or whoever has won, their wins, it is defined by 1. Okay, when you do this, when you calculate this, you'll come to see that okay, there are 3 people who has total wins of 1 and 2, right? So these are the people who has with respect to the winner count. So what I'll do, I'll make this table as with winner count. I'll call it as this particular keyword. Now what I can do, I can write a simple select statement. I'll write select what I want, top one candidate I want. Okay, now let me show you the tables again with which you can understand. So top one I want, but again the details what I want this top genre I want. So what I'll do, I'll write top one. This table I'll call it as nominee information NI. NI table top underscore genre I want. From which table? From CTE, right? What is the CTE? Winner underscore count is our CTE. Let us call it as WC. Okay. So I'll try to join nominee information because I want top genre, right? So I want nominee information. Join nominee information. We'll call it as NI. On what basis? Winner count nominee. Winner count nominee is equal to nominee information dot name column. Why? If you see this in this particular table where we have written our city, there that particular column name is nominee. Here also it is nominee. But when it comes to information, nominee information, the column name is name. So that is why I have written ni dot name. Right. So now it is almost done, right? All one thing is left. We need to order by. So order by winner count total wins in descending order because we want maximum wins people, right? And if since you want to, if at all you want to sort it on name basis also, what you can do, ni dot name in ascending order. Why are we doing this? In the question itself they asked, right? Written the first one in the alphabet order based upon the name. So that is why we are trying to sort it based upon the name as well as the total wins. So once you try to execute this whole query, you see for the top performer, we got the top genre as drama, right? This is the output that we want. Is this understandable, everyone? What did we do from two tables? Do anyone have any queries?
No, clear. Very clear.
Very clear. Good.